rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, now there's been a bunch of stuff going on. And as I finish up my pre-show work here, there's been a bunch of things happening. You know, it's kind of interesting. I made a comment to my friend Steven Stiles. He and I were talking one time, and this was pre-Trump getting elected a second term. I said, it's going to be interesting. The second term of Trump, I'm probably not going to have anything to talk about. Boy, was I wrong. Oh, my goodness. And even Dan Bongino made a comment about that today on his show. He's like, oh, yeah. He goes, when you're doing content creation in this space, he said that, the left just provides all of the content for themselves. All you have to do as a content creator in this space when the left is unhappy is just play their own stuff against them. And, I was completely wrong. I thought once Trump got in, everything would be cool. We'd be all, happy, hunky-dory. There wouldn't be a whole heck of a lot to talk about. Nope. That obviously isn't the case. Anyway. Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight is, of course...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And in honor of, and kind of a throwback to the Whiskey Musings days, I'm wearing a shirt that I think you guys will like. Here, I'm going to move the mic down so you can get a full look at what it says. All right. It says, whiskey goes in, wisdom comes out. Yeah, my gift from my children. I think. I can't remember where I got it. I don't know. It's whiskey goes in and wisdom comes out. I can't remember who got it or where I got it. I think it was a gift from my kids. But anyway, I don't know. I could be wrong. Brain cells are gone. Anyway. So tonight's drink of choice. One of the faves. Four Roses Single Barrel. That's right. And, of course, it is in the True Grit Roots Network glass. Yep. And there it is. And, of course, the requisite stones are at the bottom. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I know. Brain cells. What's that? Anyway, all right. I got a jam-packed show for you tonight. We got Todd Blanche, Adam Schiff, confrontation. We've got, of course, the entire thing regarding the ICE. There's some new developments, too, on that. And if I can get to them, provided I don't go off on a tangent or whatever, we have the Senate and the House. The House trying to get things done, the Senate stopping things, and a potential shutdown might be looming. And then, at the very end, we have, instead of a normal pet of the week, we have a PSA pet of the week, a public service announcement pet of the week. Submitted by our, I'm the Western contingent, but the Midwest, Western Midwest, I don't know. Anyway, Coco submitted this one's for tonight, and yeah, let's just say it is actually pretty important. In fact, it was so important that I actually was considering talking about it, and then she submitted it after I was considering talking about it on Monday and cut it on the put the thing on the cutting room floor, and so she revived it, and I said, oh, wow, okay, well, great minds think alike. Not that I'm saying that my mind is great, but, because I have the most intelligent listening and viewing audience in the ethosphere. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off properly with Kat Pekarik. Kat Pekarik is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. She's over in the green room getting herself ready, doing the scales, la, 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 that kind of thing. And so, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Kat as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This land is your land, America the beautiful. God bless America.
And, of course, I thank you, Kat, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, and address that email to me. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 25 of these. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So somebody out there, please make my dream goal come true by sending in the last one. And if you use your phone, don't forget to use the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option within your app that'll allow you to send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Now, not only do I have the most intelligent listening audience, I also have some of the most generous listening audience in the ethosphere. Last night, I didn't mention it, but last night, Ms. T of Texas, she decided that Rumble was looking a little too pale. And so Rumble apparently, or Ms. T, apparently went ahead and bought a bunch of subscriptions. So now there's a bunch of people with pink on their names. So they're all blushing. All the usernames are blushing over there. And, so yeah, if you head on over there, you can check out all of the pink that Ms. T has provided. She gifted subscriptions to the channel, and I thank her for that. All right, tonight's headline sponsor, of course, because we were drinking out of the True Grit Roots Network glass. Oh, Coco D insert name here has shown up, and she says, I thought it was red. I call them red rashes. Well, I see them as pink, but anyway, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and head on to tonight's headline sponsor. Of course, because we're drinking out of the True Grit Roots Network glass, you know it is True Grit Roots Network night. Head on over to tgrn.net. That's tgrn.net. And you'll be able to listen to both of our channels, Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio and Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. You can listen directly in the browser by just clicking on one of the play buttons here in the widgets. But we would thank you for that, honestly. But you can also download our app. We have one app for each channel. So you download both of them from the App Store or Google Play. You can click on the buttons right there in the website, tgrn.net. You'll be taken right there where you can download the app. You can download one or both. We prefer both because then you can switch back and forth. Whatever your mood strikes you, you can switch back and forth. And to show your love to the public, not only play Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio or Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, you can head on up to their shop, click on right up there in the main header, the main menu up at the top of the page, click on shop and be redirected to the store. That's store. Or you could also just go straight to shop.tgrn.net. That's shop.tgrn.net. And you'll be able to grab one of our wonderful t-shirts, hoodies, or caps with the logos. You can grab the True Grit Roots Network logo, the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio logo, or the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio across anyone. Pick up 1, 2, 3. Pick up one for every day of the week. Show your love for the True Grit Roots Network by wearing something of ours every single day. Go to tgrn.net, and that stands for True Grit Roots Network, and they are based out of Austin, Texas. All right. We thank you, by the way, for listening. All right, well, remember when, what was her name? Pam Bondi, yes. Well, remember when Pam Bondi got, well, some people said fired. She got kicked to the curb. No, she left of her own accord, doing for whatever reason. Well, Todd Blanche has been working as the interim acting attorney general. Today he sat for the committee, the Judiciary Committee, and he's going to field questions from them today and tomorrow. Then there's going to be a full Senate vote on whether or not Todd Blanche becomes our next U.S. Attorney General. And, well, let's just say there's a few things that you're probably going to see or hear about. Some of this had already maybe have been covered. But what you're probably going to see here is obviously things about the Jeffrey Epstein case, because whether Pam Bondi screwed it up or not, made it public or not, was really stupid about how to bring it to the public. Todd Blanche was a part of that. And Dick Durbin, of course, is probably going to be going after them. Going after that. Now, Chuck Grassley heads the committee, so I can't imagine that Grassley's going to allow too much stuff to be brought into play. But, yeah. Anyway, Tom Tillis mentioned to the Epoch Times that he wants to hear Blanche promise that Trump's previously proposed $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund will remain dead permanently. I'm not exactly sure how the Attorney General can make that statement, but anyway, you remember that anti-weaponization fund had to deal with people who had been, compensation for people who had been attacked by the Biden administration. Anyway, and the courts, by the way, did block that. So anyway, the money, by the way, was supposed to come from a settlement of Trump's lawsuit alleging the IRS leaked his tax returns, which they did. Anyway, let's see, what else is there? Blumenthal, he basically said, I hope he will disavow the corruption and demagoguery that we see from Donald Trump. I don't know where that's coming from, but okay, whatever. And, yeah. So, anyway, we'll see. Blumenthal. Blumenthal. What an idiot. Anyway, yeah, because he's a Connecticut Democrat, so he's an idiot. Let's see. Eric Schmidt from Missouri said that Todd Blanche is already delivering. So that's cool. Schmidt was happy. Sheldon Whitehouse reiterated concerns that he and other Democrats outlined in the late June letter to Blanche. They rallied against Blanche for failing to provide information on dozens of topics, including the Justice Department's alleged bending the justice system to President Trump's will. Okay, I have a question, and I would love to have a leftist lunatic Democrat tell me. Just tell me this. Where in the Constitution of the United States does it state that any executive branch, organization, individual, whatever, is an independent agency? There is none. There are no independent agencies in the Constitution. Either you are accountable to Congress, you're accountable to the executive, you're accountable to both. I mean, there is no independent agencies. And I hate this idea that, the left keeps pushing this. And I'm sorry, I'm a strict constitutionalist. The Constitution says what it says and doesn't say what it doesn't say. And first of all, it doesn't say that any agency that was created by law under the Constitution, under Congress, for the executive branch to utilize in order to execute laws is an independent agency, because the president is literally the executive branch of government. All these, agencies that they built and everything, they are responsible to the president. End of story. There's no question about that. But, of course, the left seems to think that we can have a government that is completely independent of one another somehow. No. There's three branches of government only. It is the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Nothing else. There is nothing else. There's no independent agencies. There's no independent banks. There's none of this other stuff. It is all, Congress makes the law, passes the law over to the executive branch to execute and enforce, and that's where the executive takes control and runs it. They are in charge, period. Anyway, now, Attorney Mike Davis, he advocates for conservative legal issues via the Article 3 project, has been helping Blanche to prepare for the confirmation process. He's confident that the senators are going to approve Blanche's cabinet position before they head into a month-long recess on August 10th. So, and the majority vote of senators is required to approve his appointment. Blanche must garner near unanimous support for 53 Republican senators because Democrats hold 47 seats. Now, don't get me wrong. That means that, unfortunately, the turtle is out. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's see what else here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The Alliance for Justice, actually, no, it's not. Here it is. The Alliance for Justice, a self-described progressive nonprofit, pointed to a letter that alleged that Blanche is a dangerous nominee. The group alleged in a post on X, Todd Blanche has spent his career politicizing government, standing in the way of justice for victims, and carrying out Trump's bidding. to harm those who stand in the way of Trump's authoritarian agenda. Well, what do you think Garland did under Biden? I mean, wow. He spied on Congress, or actually allowed Jack Smith to spy and lie to Congress about that spying on Congress. So, yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, well, in today's hearing, of course, Adam Shifty Schiff, the California idiot, well, he and Blanche kind of got into it a little bit. Here's some video of that exchange, some of that exchange.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Blanche, you represented the president in at least three criminal cases, the hush money payment case in New York, the January 6th case, and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. You said when you appeared last before this committee you would consult with ethics lawyers about that apparent conflict of interest in handling any case involving the president, having been his personal counsel. Did you consult with Joseph Terrell, a senior ethics lawyer at the department?
I believe I met with Mr. Terrell, yes.
Did Mr. Terrell tell you that ethics laws and policies required that you not be involved in cases involving your prior representation of the president?
Yes.
So in those three matters, the hush money payment case, January 6th case, Mar-a-Lago case, you were to recuse yourself?
I'm recused, correct. Well, by the way, the cases are not ongoing, Senator, but to the extent there's any work around those cases, yes, I'm recused.
So you said to CPAC a couple months ago, the other things that are happening, there is not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions, meaning the prosecution of the president. So you're saying that it's not a conflict of interest for you to be involved in the firing of prosecutors who prosecuted your client, your former client? There's no conflict there? Is that
no, there is. I wasn't involved.
So at CPAC, you're taking credit for the firing of these Department of Justice lawyers, but you're not willing to take responsibility before this committee. Is that the case?
No.
Okay.
There's a statement I gave
you
at
were
CPAC.
bragging about this at CPAC, the firing of these prosecutors, the firing of the FBI agents, the getting rid of everyone who investigated your client. You were proud of that, speaking for the Department of Justice, but you don't think that's a conflict of interest. You moved to vacate, I don't think you're going to deny involvement in this, you moved to vacate the convictions of 12 Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, which erased their convictions, restored their gun rights. These people were convicted in the January 6th investigation, which also involved the president, who you represented. You were involved in dismissing those cases, were you not?
I'm the acting attorney general. So, yes, my department moved to dismiss. I was not involved.
You didn't recuse yourself from that matter. You were willing.
There's no reason to. From the Proud Boys matter?
Yes,
the rules. There are rules that say when I have to be recused, and that's not one of them.
And there are rules. And when you're told to recuse yourself from investigations that you handle for the president, you're supposed to recuse yourself.
No, when I represented the president.
You've also refused to release Volume 2 of the Special Counsel's report. That was an investigation into the Mar-a-Lago documents case. How is that not an abundant conflict of interest? Refusing to release to the public an investigative report of an investigation into your client.
I am not a judge, a federal judge.
No. The department's position under you, Mr. Blanche, was do not release the report.
So that position...
If you went into court asking them to release it, it would be released by now. So how is that not a patent conflict of interest?
What you're saying happens to not be true. I did not do that. What you're talking about happened before I became the Deputy Attorney General. So you support the release of Volume 2? No, I don't, but I'm recused and had nothing to do with that case. Like, you can't accuse me of violating my ethical rules and then lie about what I did.
So you had nothing to do with the decision to prohibit the release of the report? You had nothing to do with the department's position? I wasn't in court. No, I'm not asking whether you were in court. I'm asking you whether anyone sought your opinion or used your guidance in refusing to release Volume 2.
When
you're saying you had nothing to do with that decision?
Litigation was ongoing, I was a private citizen, still representing the President of the United States. It was before March. Since March, to the extent there's been anything in front of that judge,
Mr. Blanch, I asked you in your last confirmation hearing whether you would release the report, and your answer was no. Your answer was not, I will recuse myself. Your answer was no, I will not release the report. That was your testimony last before this committee. You subsequently were advised by ethics lawyers not to be involved in these matters, but it appears you were involved in these matters. Let me ask you about another matter.
I wasn't involved. Well, you can't say it appears I was involved, but I said I wasn't.
Let me ask you about another one you have your name on.
The truth has to matter at some point.
Yeah, it does matter. We just don't hear much of it from you. But let me ask you about another matter you have your name on.
Obviously, you can see Adam Schiff does not want Todd Blanche to actually defend himself. And even though Todd Blanche has gotten in a few things like, you're not even telling the truth, man. What is wrong with you? Even though he's doing that and saying that, it's not, you know, Schiff is going to do what all leftists do. They're just going to continue on. And, yeah. Anyway, Schiff apparently, Schiff's idea here is that Blanche should just recuse himself for anything, each and every case, because it happens to involve the name Trump. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, just for the record, that Volume 2 of the former special counsel Jack Smith's final report, which does concern classified documents, that classified documents investigation, it was never released. Judge Eileen Cannon blocked its release multiple times. So the judge himself, or the judge herself, I should say, is the one that said, no, you cannot release that. So how is Todd Blanche, how is he in charge of that? Well, obviously, Schiff doesn't give a shit about it. So, yeah. Anyway, Blanche wasn't even acting AG at the time when the DOJ decided not to issue the report, and neither was he on the job when Cannon made her final ruling to dismiss the case. But, again, Adam Schiff doesn't care. It doesn't care. So, he doesn't care. So, anyway, yeah. Schiff is going to Schiff, and he's going to attack Todd Blanche personally. Yeah, they continued. They talked back and forth about the disloyal prosecutors, which, again, Todd Blanche was not necessarily a part of. So, anyway, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. We got another day in committee, and then, of course, it goes to the floor, and all of the Senate will have the opportunity to vote on it. Well, let's shift our attention over toward ICE. Now, there have been a couple of shootings that have occurred, presumptively, based on the information that we have so far. The two, one happened in Texas, one happened in, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Maine. Both incidents, the victims, I'm going to call them victims, even though they're really not victims, the perpetrators, there we go, the perpetrators who got iced. Thank you, unofficial producer, thank you, you confirmed it was in Maine. The individuals who got iced by ICE, they tried to attack the ICE agents by car. Again, like Preddy, like Good. You know, it's really very simple. I'm just going to put this out there again. This is sort of a PSA. I should probably repeat it over and over and over again every time I get a story about, ICE or law enforcement. There's a real simple way to stay alive dealing with law enforcement. One, don't commit crime. Your chances of running across law enforcement as an adversary of law enforcement go down 100% if you don't commit crime. Just saying. If you aren't a criminal, your chances of running across law enforcement in an adversarial situation is literally zero. The second thing is, if you happen to run across law enforcement in one of those adversarial situations, you are not the aggressor. Do not do anything that would cause law enforcement to think that they need to protect themselves or the public from you. That means when they pull you over, stop your car, show your hands, do not make any sudden movements, and for gosh sakes, do not turn the car back on and slam on the gas when an officer is in front of you or behind you. ICE is federal law enforcement. Period. They have the exact same powers that any other, and some extras, that any other federal law enforcement officer has. They have the same protections. This is not anything, to be misconstrued in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, because of those two incidences, the Department of Homeland Security issued a pause on what they called traffic stops. Meaning that if they saw or, identified a vehicle that may be in your name as an illegal alien, and they have the authority to pull you over. These are traffic stops. And that's what initiated the incidences. Okay. And so there you go. And anyway, the DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullen, he says, well, we're going to put a pause on stopping these guys until we can kind of, figure this stuff out. Well, Tom Homan, he has nothing to do with it. He's not interested in that. Tom Homan basically was like, well, that's not quite the case. And he basically had some things to say about it. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the Bulldog as he corrects the record.
You tell me, sir, what is the change and why are you doing it?
Well, that decision was made by the Secretary along with leadership at ICE. But look, it's not a policy change. It's a temporary pause. Look, we had the last couple of shootings. ICE leadership along with DHS believes they want to look at these last couple of incidents and look, is there something that could have been done better? Is there any training that can be improved? Or it's simply ICE doing their job and bad things happen when people don't comply with law enforcement officers. So I think it's going to be a short pause, and I'm confident that ICE is well trained in vehicle stops, and you're going to see us keep moving forward. But this is just a temporary pause where they look at the incidents. But let me say this too: I hear a lot of noise right now. This is going to affect ICE arrests, and it's not going to. Look, I've done this for a long time. You can when that alien leaves his home before he gets into the car, you can arrest him then. You can wait till the vehicle gets to the destination and arrest him then. Every case is different. Now, we know vehicle assaults are up over 3,400%. So if we can arrest that alien outside that vehicle and take that 2-ton weapon away from them, that's good in some instances. Other instances, we're going to still need to do vehicle stops for a significant criminal. You may want to stop him in a desolate area before he gets downtown. You certainly don't want to stop a criminal alien near a school that in the middle of recess with 100 kids in the playground. Right. There are so many circumstances these agents need to look at to make these decisions. So I do not think this short pause can affect the arrest, because the alien can be arrested before or after that vehicle. But this is, what I understand, talking to the director of ICE, it's a short pause just to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Well, let me...
Tom Homan was correct. I don't even think it lasted 24 hours. And that's because Trump today goes, no, we're not stopping this. Give me a break. Trump says, well, yeah, the pause is over. One of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools. In a social media post, Trump wrote, "We cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop." Trump also stated the obvious, which is that the DHS policy shift would be playing right into the criminals' hands. Now, let me explain something to you. I live in a Democrat-run state, unfortunately. I live near Democrat-run cities. I am around Democrat-run counties. There was a statewide, I think it's right, statewide moratorium on high-speed pursuits. And that was announced all over. Everybody was, excited. Everybody was, well, all the leftists who like to go easy on ICE, I got something in that here in just a minute, or who like to go easy on aliens, I should say, not ICE, but easy on aliens and criminals. Yeah. Anyway, that didn't stop the crime. In fact, if anything, it encouraged it, because the criminals knew that, hey, as long as I can just get to my car and take off at a high rate of speed, I'm not going to be chased anymore, and I can get away with it. That's essentially what is happening here. You take away a tool of law enforcement to do their jobs, and all you're doing is saying, hey, criminals, go ahead, take it. Or do it. Murder somebody, attack somebody violently, break into their house, take their stuff. I mean, the city of Seattle has a habit of letting auto thieves go, and it takes an average, I heard this was a statistic from a while ago, but an average of something like 12 to 15 arrests for auto theft before they even bother to put them in jail. What they were doing is essentially, hey, oh, you got arrested for auto theft? Okay, yeah, we're going to let you go. Go ahead, go. We don't have time to prosecute or whatever. 12 to 15 times. See, that's not deterrence, folks. That's encouragement. That's encouragement. Anyway, Trump continued and said the radical left Democrats would like to see this done, but it won't happen on my watch. He goes, ICE, be judicious, fair, and smart, and go back and do your very important job. Now, ICE agents, they were all like, that's better. Yes. Because, police officers, military members, they get irritated over the fact that policy prevents them from doing their jobs. Okay? I can't tell you, and this is, the soldiers in Korea, the military that were in Korea and in Vietnam were getting so upset over the fact that they could not do their job that I got to tell you, if you want to know the difference between doing your job without political influence, generally speaking, and doing your job with political influence, all you have to do is look at the difference between how we reacted in Vietnam versus Desert Storm, as an example. Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf, when he freed Kuwait and entered into Iraq, he wasn't playing. He took them all out, and he did it quickly and efficiently. And that's the way things should be done in war. Once you decide that you're going to take off, go do something in terms of war or conflict, whatever you want to call it, man, unleash the generals, unleash the admirals. Let them go do what they've been trained to do. Go win, period. That was it. That's all they need to know. Anyway. And by the way, so the White House did confirm with Fox News that the president did overturn that pause on vehicle stops. Now, people are wondering why you would need to overturn that. Why do we even need ICE? Well, first of all, this in the Epoch Times, ICE breaks a daily arrest record in South Texas. The arrested individuals have been convicted of crimes such as sexual battery, assault, drug possession, God knows what else. 238 illegal immigrants were arrested on June 18th. And that is now the new record for a single day of targeted arrests for the ICE division. Now, the office that made it was located in the Rio Grande Valley, oversees the South Texas region. And the individuals were arrested as part of an operation aimed at removing criminal illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, from communities to increase public safety, ICE said in a July 14th statement. The agency conducted the operations in partnership with local, state, and federal law enforcement officials. Among the arrested are a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of sexual battery and attempted kidnapping, another Mexican national convicted of possessing marijuana with the intent to distribute, and another Mexican criminal alien alleged to be a Paisas, P-A-I-S-A-S, I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, gang member with convictions for assault and possessing a controlled substance. Now, Palisa, P-A-L-I-S-A-S, I guess. I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, it's a criminal group with ties to Mexico's Gulf Cartel and has been designated a foreign terrorist organization, by the way. So, there you go. All of those arrested individuals also stand to face additional criminal charges for illegally re-entering the United States. Which, by the way, again, that is a criminal. For all of the left sitting there saying, oh, no, it's just a civil offense. Look, folks, if it's a civil offense, the way you tell is what is the punishment. If the punishment has anything to do with jail time, that is a criminal offense. If all it is paying a fine or some other sort of restitution, that's a civil offense. Period. Okay? That's it. That's it. That's all it is. Anyway. ICE reiterated, by the way, that it was focused on arresting and removing illegal aliens from the country, especially those with criminal records consistent with the mandate that was set out by President Trump. So, there you go. Well, trying to get rid of the criminals. We're also trying to get rid of people who really, really, really shouldn't have commercial driver's licenses. Now, I know I've been talking on this program for a while about this. We've had, incidents in Florida and California from Florida, or Florida from California. People who are driving these huge big rigs. They get their commercial driver's licenses and they can't even speak English, even though one of the requirements for having a commercial driver's license in the States is that you must be able to read and comprehend and communicate English. Well, there was an illegal alien trucker who killed 3 people in California. And this illegal alien from India, by the way. He's a 21-year-old. He was sentenced to only 4 years and 8 months in prison for the deadly crash in Southern California that killed 3 people and injured 4 others. His semi-truck caused an 8-vehicle pileup on Interstate 10 in Ontario, California, after failing to stop, according to investigators. Now, this guy apparently entered the U.S. illegally in March of 2022. So how is he getting a driver's license? Okay, now I'm going to extrapolate this and take this a little bit further, because the left and the idiots of the Democrat Party, because they're not necessarily one and the same, although they are pretty close, they seem to think that driver's licenses are acceptable forms of ID. See, this is part of the reason why I sit here and say, no, if you're going to vote in our elections, you got to prove that you're a citizen of the United States. Driver's license doesn't cut it. It just doesn't. Because driver's licenses are handed out to anybody like candy in a lot of these leftist states, like California, as an example. And regardless of what anybody says, that Motor Voter Act, known as the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which puts this little box, this little checkbox. That checkbox says in English, I certify that I am a United States citizen, I want to vote in elections, and I am now asking to register to vote. And that's it. So how in the hell do these states even have any idea, especially these Democrat states, have any idea that, number one, these illegal aliens haven't landed on our voter rolls, and number two, that they haven't actually voted? Now, it further complicates the problem when you have cities like San Francisco, as an example, who allow illegal aliens to vote in local elections. See, this is why the SAVE Act is so important. This is why we need to secure our elections. This is why. And we need to understandably realize that there are states that are not going to uphold federal regulations because they are sanctuary or whatever. This is ridiculous. And you have these people like this gentleman here who's killed 3, injured 4, and only gets 4 years. That's 1 year for every person that he killed, plus a little added on. That's nothing. Oh, it's a terrible tragedy. No, it's not a terrible tragedy. What it is it's ridiculous. They shouldn't have been here. They shouldn't have gotten a job. They shouldn't have gotten a driver's license. End of story. I'm telling you, if all we did was enforce current laws, we wouldn't have to change anything. Everybody would just have to enforce existing laws. That's it. But no, they're not going to do that because they love their illegals. They love them. Well, oh, I accidentally closed one of my things. Apparently there was an illegal Canadian alien who has now gotten herself and her TikTok husband, and I say that because he posts on TikTok all the time, reportedly. I don't watch it. But apparently this illegal Canadian alien got mad. She's a leftist. Why does that not surprise me any? But she got mad and physically assaulted a gentleman who was wearing a pro-ICE and pro-Trump clothing. You know, hat, shirt, whatever. And she apparently physically assaulted him. Well, now, reportedly, she is set to be deported, and her husband is, the TikTok husband is just a little, he's a little out of it for that. But anyway, not the only one. You know, I was telling you just a few minutes ago about those two individuals who were shot by ICE because they were attacked by them in their vehicle during a traffic stop. Well, there's some new information that the leftist lunatics in the mainstream media are not going to tell you. Reportedly, the individual, the man who was in Houston, Texas, who apparently had been in the country for decades, even though he was here illegally, and was shot by ICE when he attempted to flee and run over an ICE officer. Well, they, and of course the left kept talking about this and framing it in a bad way. They're trying to frame it like the guy that was the MS-13 human trafficker in Tennessee, gang member or whatever. You know, he was just a father. Oh, he's just a father. That's all. No. People like Governor Tim Walz saying about this guy in Houston, you know, after months-long occupation, Minnesota is still recovering from a retribution campaign waged by the federal government. No, that would have been because you don't enforce immigration law like you're supposed to. But anyway, he continued on his expose and said, now Minnesota stands with Houston in demanding accountability for the fatal shooting of this guy. The bloodshed cannot be normalized. Yeah. Oh, I'm being corrected on that Canadian woman attacked the teenage girl, I guess. There was a teenage girl who was wearing pro-ICE, pro-Trump, and she attacked that person. Well, still doesn't matter. Still doesn't matter. Anyway. Yeah. She is like, oh, it's an innocent family man subjected to fascist thugs. Yep. Mm-hmm. Anyway, even like Alyssa Slotkin, oh yeah, you know, one of the seditious six, she repeats lies that ICE agents are untrained, unprepared, accuses them of murdering people in cold blood. Look, I'm just going to put this out there. ICE agents are federal agents. They go through the exact same training that everybody else does in order to become a federal agent, okay? Period. Full stop. End of story. Now, they might receive additional training when they reach whoever, you know, whichever agency they're working for, whether it's the FBI, ICE, Border Patrol, whatever. But everybody receives the same ground-based training. They all do. They have to. It's called consistency. So that you can have multi-jurisdictional operations and nobody gets, you know, off the rocker or whatever you say, you know, goes off as a cowboy or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, she called out. Now, again, we have innocent people killed because they were driving away out of fear. No, you should stop. Okay. Again, PSA. I guarantee you will survive every single police encounter if you just listen to what they say. Anyway, I digress. That being said, apparently now we have what was his name? Oh shoot. I just lost him. I just lost his name. Yeah, the rest of the story. Now we have the rest of the story. Because apparently, when they searched this guy's car after the shooting, when they searched him, or searched his car, yes, Paul Harvey, thank you very much, Paul Harvey. Why can I not remember that? I can remember Rush Limbaugh, but Paul Harvey was another one, man. I loved listening to his rest of the story when I was growing up. Noon every day. Well, right after the stock report. Those were the two things that my stepdad used to listen to on the radio. We never listened to music in the car. It was always silent in the car. But boy, around noon, he listened to the stock report, and then immediately behind that, Paul Harvey's the rest of the story. Anyway. To get back to what I was saying. So now we know there was a reason why this guy didn't want to get caught. I mean, outside of the fact that he was an illegal alien here for multiple years, okay? But apparently, 3 bags of some sort of a white crystalline substance believed to be meth were found inside the van. So this guy... anyway, yeah. So this guy who's supposedly like, up and coming, pure and everything else, he goes, he goes, well, here's the thing. That guy, he apparently wasn't all that clean. Sort of like Graham Plattner clean. Yeah. He was Graham Plattner level clean. Anyway, so the New York Times published the story about how this guy chased the American dream for 35 years. He was illegal here for 35 years. Seriously. Anyway. And that all he was doing was driving to work. That was it. Yeah. Except they found 3 bags, according to the search warrant affidavit. They found 3 bags believing to contain meth. Hey, he was driving to work. What kind of work does this guy do? Yeah. He's an upstanding citizen. On his way to work. What kind of work? Oh, maybe distribution of a controlled substance? Sure. Yeah. And of course, having that in your car, that would be a bit of a problem. Oh, folks, it's just, I mean, again, the left doesn't care. They're not going to care. They don't care. They don't give a crap one way or the other. They really don't. They honestly do not care. As long as it fits their narrative, the details don't matter. Okay? Oh, we're going off the tracks. Oh, over in the Rumble chat, they're talking about Paul Harvey. Oh, I love Paul Harvey. His good day at the end of his transmissions, And now you know the rest of the story. This is Paul Harvey. Good day. Oh, yeah, they're talking about Paul Harvey and, and age. I won't put the quote or put the I won't put the comment up on screen, but yeah, you really got to head over to rumble.com, get yourself an account and get into the chat. I'm telling you, it's a fun place to be. All right. Oh boy. Well, if you have any doubt that the Senate, Democrats in particular, have no idea about what they are supposed to do, okay, and how they are supposed to do it, what they are truly responsible for, thank you for that notification, truly responsible for and not responsible for, this would give you an indication of what's going on here in the Epoch Times. Why does it not surprise me that the Senate Democrats would block defense spending? Now, they're saying that because of the resumption of the war in Iran, and let's be honest, this is a conflict, not a war. America hasn't declared war since World War II, period. Yeah, Coco, it's because I reset the function. Anyway. Democrats blocked the advancement of a critical defense spending package known as the National Defense Authorization Act on July 14th, which was yesterday, as the two major parties remained divided over its provisions. The tally was a 50-46, with Senate Majority Leader John Thune switching his vote from yes to no so that he can bring it up again to invoke cloture, which requires the 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. Now, Senator Mitch McConnell, for obvious reasons, Jim Justice out of West Virginia, John Fetterman out of Pennsylvania, and Alex Padilla out of California, they all missed the vote. There was 4 of them that missed the vote. Now, the Senate Armed Services Committee advanced this bill on June 11th in a bipartisan 18-9 vote. However, Republicans and Democrats have failed to agree on the top-line defense and non-defense spending levels, creating tension between the two sides. Democrats have said that the resumption of the conflict in Iran was a factor behind their opposition to the motion. So, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on the floor before the vote, said, now the White House has formally notified Congress that hostilities have resumed, that America strikes are underway again, and our forces remain positioned for more. Yet Republicans want the Senate to take up the NDAA, the defense bill, as though none of this is happening. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's happening or not, Chucky boy. Defense spending in the defense of this nation comprises 6 of the 18 enumerated powers, meaning enumerated items, that the Congress and the federal government is supposed to control and legislate on. 6 of 18, a full 1/3 of the listed enumerated powers that the founders put out as being wholly a federal government responsibility have to deal with national defense. Whether it's raising an army, a navy, so on and so forth. I mean, come on, folks. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. And ironically, this is what our taxpayer dollars, a good portion of it, again, 1/3 of our money should be, of our tax dollars should be going to this. I'm not saying 1/3 as in total money. I'm just saying 1/3 of the responsibilities fall under national defense. So anyway, Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Roger Wicker of Mississippi said the vote to block the defense bill coming up for debate was unprecedented. He goes, it's unprecedented not to pass the motion to proceed on the NDAA, and it reflects a decision and a mindset on the part of Senator Schumer not to cooperate at all, because much of this has already been done on a bipartisan basis. He says it really is a new low. It's a $1.15 trillion legislation that would allocate almost $1.1 trillion to the Department of War, more than the $41.14 billion the Energy Department. Additionally, $41.14 billion to the Energy Department to manage the nation's nuclear arsenal, and $11 billion to other defense-related activities. So that's what makes up the $1.15 trillion. The bill authorizes a 3.6% pay raise for all military members. Yeah, they should be paid more than even our Congress people should, in my view. But anyway, The bill also would allocate funds to educational agencies affected by the enrollment of military and Department of War civilian dependents. Schumer said on Monday, criticizing Republicans in a Dear Colleague letter. God, that sounds like a what is it? Dear Miss, Dear Ann, whatever, for the advice columnist. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, Dear Colleague letter for the lopsided spending bills that supervise the president's war budget, leave families behind, and let corruption go unchecked. Oh, corruption. Yes, dear Abby. Thank you. Dear Abby and Ann Landers both. But anyway, yeah. Let's see. Leave families behind. The federal government, again, 18 enumerated powers, according to the Constitution, has never been modified, added to, or anything else. Okay? Families have no business getting federal taxpayer dollars, period. 6 of the 18 enumerated powers are supposed to go to defense spending. So, sorry, but no. Anyway. Alrighty. Well, on the opposite side of Capitol Hill, because you know Capitol Hill is divided into 2 parts. You have the upper chamber, which is known as the Senate, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody saw. This is going to be a digression here just because I happen to think about it. But I don't know if anybody saw it, but there was this DSA guy, Democrat Socialists of America, DSA guy, that was talking about how the Senate was a byproduct of rich people, and that the Senate compromise was something that should be, and the Senate itself is something that should be abolished. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, okay? When it was originally created during the debates, the Senate was to represent the state interests in the federal government. Okay? The House of Representatives represented the people's representatives in government. This is why the House of Representatives is made up of the number of individual representatives per state based on population. While the Senate, because many of the larger states advocated for the same type of system, meaning that based on population said how many senators you actually get. And the smaller states were like, no, just because you happen to be bigger and have more population doesn't mean that you need more representation. And so they came up with the idea of the Senate compromise, and they said, okay, fine, doesn't matter how big or small your state is, you only get 2 representatives. Now, before we amended the Constitution, people didn't vote on the Senate. People didn't vote on the Senate at all, the senators. It was representatives from each of the state legislatures that went and became senators. Me personally, I think we need to go back to that. We need to go back to that policy. Eliminate the idea that you vote for your senators. Because again, the Senate was designed to be the state's representatives in the federal government. And the House of Representatives was the people's representatives in the federal government. Well, speaking of the House of Representatives, they released a blueprint for a $95 billion reconciliation package. Now, this reconciliation package is supposed to fund defense, farm aid, and state measures to implement voter ID requirements in elections. So what Johnson is doing, Speaker Johnson is doing, is he is attempting to put the items that are part of the Save America Act, at least parts of it, into this reconciliation bill. Now, for those of you that don't know, when it's a reconciliation bill bypasses the filibuster requirement in the Senate. So if the Senate accepts this bill and it passes, well, first it has to pass the House. If the House passes it, and then it goes to the Senate. If it goes to the Senate and it passes the Senate parliamentarian, and the Senate passes it, they just need a simple majority on this. So, yeah. So, it's going to be interesting on all of this. So the Save America Act, of course, has been stuck in the Senate because it won't survive the Senate's arcane reconciliation rules. And unfortunately would likely be restripped from this reconciliation bill if it reaches there. So, yeah. Anyway, this is another attempt. This is another attempt to get it down, and it's not going to happen. Anyway, we need the Save America Act. Everybody, I mean, the vast majority of Americans, 83% across the board, 71% of Democrats, 89% of Republicans, they all want it passed. Well, there are some fears of a shutdown coming up. So apparently, the odds of a September government shutdown are potentially climbing after President Trump warned that Republicans need to scrap the filibuster or face another funding lapse, which caught Republican leaders flat-footed and, of course, hardened Democrat resistance to the annual defense authorization bill. By the way, the National Defense Authorization Act is a 2-year cycle. So this would fund everything for the next 2 years. So anyway, yeah. The Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, said, well, shutting down the government if we don't abolish the filibuster? Well, that's a new line. So he wasn't even prepared for that. Yeah. So anyway, and by the way, Thune keeps saying over and over and over again that the votes to invoke what's known as the nuclear option and eliminate the legislative filibuster by simple majority is not there. So, yeah. And we may be looking at another shutdown in September, folks. Very well could be. So just kind of keep that in mind. And especially when you're dealing with stuff like this. You know. Yeah. And, of course, the Democrats, like, Spartacus himself, they are starting to blame Trump about wanting to shut down the government. Now, other than affecting the people, the individual people, I mean, I don't care about Congress. Congress is going to get paid anyway. They get paid no matter what. Because, you always give the power of whether or not you get paid to the people who are going to get paid. You always, I don't know, I didn't explain that well enough. It's sort of like telling somebody, hey, telling the banker, hey, you can borrow money at any time from your bank with no penalties whatsoever. You can borrow the money anytime. And yeah, well, you think the banker's not going to borrow the money? Anyway, yeah. So, right. Now, don't forget that Republicans are trying to also get this Shutdown Fairness Act, which is sponsored by Ron Johnson and Todd Young, to guarantee pay for accepted federal employees during lapses in appropriations. So, anyway, we'll see if that's going to happen. Now, what's interesting, though, is Rand Paul actually called that one good idea that's come out of all of this. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll see if that happens. Anyway, we'll see what happens here. This is just, again, the current government funding expires September 30th. So there you go. Anyway. All right. Let me see. Yeah, I got enough time to do maybe one or two of these things. Donald Trump. Now, I didn't know this. I think it's great, but I didn't know this. Apparently, Mike Lindell, who lives in Minnesota, has been running for Minnesota's governor. And now President Trump endorsed him. So he has now endorsed Mike Lindell for Minnesota's governor. We'll see how that works for him in terms of this. So we'll see what happened or what's going to happen. Now, Mike Lindell originally sought chairmanship for the Republican National Committee, but lost out to Ronna McDaniel, who since got let go or fired or left or whatever. So yeah, he's running for the governor of Minnesota. He's got the Trump backing. We'll see if that happens for it. So anyway, Trump wrote on True Social, Mike Lindell, the Pillow Man and one of America's greatest and most hardworking patriots, is running for the governor of Minnesota, replacing one of the worst and most incompetent governors in the history of the USA. Early primary voting has begun, and if given the chance, Mike will be spectacular. He truly loves Minnesota, as do I, and wants to bring it back from oblivion and embarrassment. He can do it. Nobody has sacrificed more than Mike Lindell in fighting for our country, especially when it comes to election integrity. He truly deserves everything he gets. He will make Minnesota great again. Mike Lindell has my complete and total endorsement. He will not let you down. Good luck, Mike. Well, speaking of Trump, he made an announcement that he is going to have a press conference tomorrow night. Now, reportedly, it will be at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time. But we all know that Donald Trump runs late. He always does. It's like, you know, that the minute that he says it, you can pretty much say, okay, maybe 30 minutes afterward. Now, if he actually, I think he's only done it once, but if he actually starts his press conference on time, and I am broadcasting, I will break in and take his feed and rebroadcast it. But if I come to the end of the show before he steps to the microphone, then yeah, I'm probably not going to carry it. So if he starts on time and I haven't ended yet, then I will most likely take it and keep broadcasting it. But the left is kind of scared about what, I don't know why. He sort of hinted at it, at what he might be talking about, and everybody seems to be saying, oh, this is going to be, about elections and elections integrity. I have a feeling there's some information that might be coming out about Fulton County's, Georgia's problems, because remember, the FBI had I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's coming up here if it hasn't already passed. But had a deadline in terms of examining the Fulton County records. Now, regardless of what happens here, okay, in terms of what he announces, we really don't have a mechanism for like reverting anything. We really don't. That would be essentially unprecedented if some sort of action were to be taken here. So anyway, there you go. All right. Well, this pet of the week, I'll go ahead and hold off on this other. I have one more article, but I'm just going to let that drop. This week's pet of the week, submitted by Coco, is actually more of a PSA, but let's go ahead and take it. All right, so for tonight's pet of the week, like I said, this is going to be a PSA. This is a public service announcement. Here's what Coco writes. He says, "Hi, Rick and the Whiskey Warriors. Sorry in advance for the length. This isn't a typical pet of the week. This is more of a public service announcement regarding bison in Yellowstone. Now, I'm actually going to expand that. This is regarding all wildlife. Doesn't matter where it is. Okay? Generally speaking, there's like this, I don't know where we get it. Maybe it's from our youth, you know. But things like hippopotamuses, moose, and bison all seem to be, oh, they're so cute and cuddly creatures and everything else. Yet all three of those have bad attitudes. All three of them do. Okay? All three do. And in fact, in terms of the bison, it's so bad, realistically, that apparently, what is it? The Wyoming, I think, has a bumper sticker for it. Yeah. Don't pet the fluffy cows. It says, think safety, act safety. Or think safely, act safely. Yeah. Realistically, I'm throwing in moose as well, because a lot of people, I don't know, maybe it's because of Bullwinkle, but a lot of people were like, moose. Oh yeah, moose. Moose, oh, they're so cuddly. No, they have bad attitudes too. And especially during the time of what they call the rut, which is their mating season. That makes the males much more pissed off. You know, they kind of want to go and get some, and they're not, they have to like fight to go get it. Anyway, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Anyway, so I'm going to leave this up while I finish this. So, where was I? Oh, yes. She goes, Coco says, I think it's important to remind people that wild animals are just that, wild, which makes them unpredictable. We have a saying, and here's the bumper sticker, don't pet the fluffy cows. Okay? While the main story I have included was not about anyone trying to approach the bison, there have been plenty of people injured by trying to approach these 2,000-pound wild animals, 13 of them in the past decade, and there are still people who get out of their cars on the highway to get a good pic, meaning picture. Don't do it. So far this year, she says, there have been 2 bison versus human incidences that have occurred in Yellowstone. The first was a 12-year-old child on June 26th. Not many details were released, but the child did survive after receiving emergency care at the hospital. Just 2 weeks later, a 65-year-old man was attacked. That is covered in this video.
Terrifying video from Yellowstone National Park where a bison flipped a 65-year-old man in the air. CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen has the story, and before we show it to you, a warning. You may find the footage disturbing.
Everyone's bison! Look out, bison!
Photographer Mike McLeod was camping in Yellowstone National Park on Friday when his wife saw a bull bison approach. He grabbed his camera and started shooting.
You can see these two people walking along the perimeter road of the campground, and they take out their phones and get some pictures or video. And as soon as the bison stands up, the grandfather, he's like, we're out of here, let's go.
After a white pickup passes, the bison springs up and charges toward the pair as they hid behind trees.
After the second loop around, the bison finally caught up to the grandfather, hooked him, and threw him up in the air.
McLeod says the man was laying on the ground at the mercy of the bison. That's when he put down his camera and went to help.
I charged the bison, yelling and screaming and kind of trying to put my camera up in the air. And a bunch of other men joined me, and we successfully hazed the bison off of the victim.
He says emergency vehicles arrived within 10 minutes. According to the park's website, bison run 3 times faster than humans, weigh up to 2,000 pounds, and visitors are advised to stay at least 25 yards away. This is the second documented bison attack in the park this year. Park officials say bison will defend their space when threatened, but according to McLeod, that wasn't the case this time.
They did everything right, and the bottom line is people come to the national park because it's wild and risky, and that's part of the downside is there's a risk.
And McLeod says he's been in touch with the family, who says he underwent surgery and is recovering in the hospital. Now, McLeod, who, by the way, is also a wildlife biologist, says the attack happened at the start of breeding season, which means males are more aggressive as they compete for dominance. Tom, it's...
So there you go, folks. Look, I'm telling you, do not in any way, shape, or form, seriously, don't be around these people. And, you know, I gotta admit, if anybody's watched the show Yellowstone, where then in the scene where the Kevin Costner character, John Dutton, goes and yells at some Asian tourists because they want to get close to a bear. See, that's another one, man. Bears, they can't. They're not cuddly creatures. We hand our kids teddy bears at night, and we make them look out, make them think that bears are just these cuddly things. No, they're violent. They are the apex predators. And you got to be careful when you go in these situations. You really do. You got to be careful with these. And anyway, so Coco continues here and says that it is recommended to stay at least 25 yards away from the bison themselves, as well as other large animals such as elk, bighorn sheep, deer, moose, and coyotes. Don't forget wolves. There's wolves out there too. She says it is also recommended by the park to stay at least 100 yards away from bears, wolves, and cougars. If a bison approaches your area, remain calm, back slowly away to a safe distance, or seek shelter in a vehicle or a sturdy building. Also note that direct, prolonged eye contact can also aggravate a bison, especially now. Okay? So, yeah. You got to be careful, man. I'm telling you, if you're going to be out in the wild like that, you got to be careful. Cougars, you're probably never going to see them until they're almost on top of you. Bears, yeah, you'll probably see them. You'll probably hear them. Wolves, if you see one, there's going to be another, at least, if not the entire pack. And wolves, by the way, they don't care. They don't really care. I've seen videos of wolves that have actually attacked humans that are out in the wild. Like not in parks, but like people who actually live out in the boonies up in Alaska. It's not pretty. Wildlife is wild. Your best bet is to just leave them alone. So anyway, there's your PSA. Don't pet the fluffy cows. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. If you would like to have your pet featured on Pet of the Week, all you need to do is send me pictures, video, whatever, of your pet, some details, obviously, name, breed, that kind of stuff. And I will get you into the Wednesday night Pet of the Week. So, and all you have to do is send that to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search for the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget before you take off to hit the thumbs up, thumbs down, or in the case of 3 Chevy, a thumb sideways or at an angle across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, Pilled.net, PILLED.net, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.